What did you used to do as a kid that was super embarrassing, but you didn't realize it at the time? I was embarrassed to get changed in my room in case anyone came in and saw me get changed. So I thought I'd get changed behind the curtain. So, in the window, looking out over the street, main street in the town. When I was little, my aunt had a dog that was really well trained. They used to play this game, where she would lie on the floor face down while covering the sides of her face with her hands. And the dog would try to nuzzle his nose in to free her face. I thought this was amazing. A few months later, my family rescued a great big Malamute dog who was about a year old. He had some behavioral issues that I was completely unaware of. I used to try and recreate the game that my aunt played with her dog. I'd lie on the floor in a ball and wait for my new dog to display the same act of loyalty. Every time, I'd hear him scramble across the floor at me, and then he'd jump on me. I thought, this is awesome. He loves me. So, naturally, I showed everyone this little trick I'd taught him. Turns out, of course, that this dog was humping me. I showed a ton of people in my neighborhood. I talked myself up as if I was this amazing dog trainer with a natural gift for animals. Then, I curled up in a ball on the floor and proceeded to be abused by my dog. Not a single neighbor told me it was wrong, and I can only assume that they stood there uncomfortably until my dog finished, or I got up. By the time I finally showed my parents, they talked some sense into me and got me to stop doing the trick. I didn't realize until years later that I was being humped. Talking to my imaginary friends in public. I thought I was cool and privileged to being the only one who can see invisible people. Someone told me that nice rack was the best compliment you could give to a girl. So I went about saying that while wondering why people were giving me awkward glares. Everything. Licking the snow off the driveway. Telling folks I have a vulva. Pretending to be a dinosaur with little claw arms and screeching. Licking lotion off myself. Chewing buttons off the clicker and insisting my family have all conversations sung in opera style. The list goes on and on. I started very early with at least 20 biting incidents while in daycare. I was too much into The Simpsons in the 90s and would regularly quote lines from whatever episode I watched the night before. I remember because Homer spoke to his own brain. I began doing that. I'd think something in my head and while the class was quiet, I'd answer myself back. But it would obviously be all weird to everyone. It just seemed like I was blurting shit out. I'm going to do well on this test. I'd think. You give the answers. I mark the paper. Deal? I'd say aloud. Just stupid shit like that. The teacher, I think it was 3rd grade, BTW, eventually told my dad about it and he made me stop. I also just remembered that in either 2nd or 3rd grade, if I had a booger in my nose and wanted to pick it without anyone noticing, I would put both my hands against my face and slide one finger into a nostril slickly. If someone would ask what I'm doing, I would say, Luke, I am your father. I'd impersonate Darth Vader while picking my nose. Lolololololol. I did that to make it seem like I had a reason for covering my mouth nose. TLDR, I am embarrassed of my younger self. When I was around 7 years old, I heard the phrase "my condolences" in a movie, possibly Breakfast Club. I asked my older brother what it meant and he said congratulations. I thought it sounded really smart and would try to impress adults, teachers, friends, parents, etc. with my newly learned vocabulary. Whenever an adult would tell me some news like we got a new dog or we're visiting family in Ohio over the holidays, I would respond with my condolences. I remember getting strange looks from the adults but assumed it was because they were just really amazed by my awesome vocabulary. Lie to my friends that my brother was a secret agent or in a gang or was a millionaire etc. He is 14 years older than me. So there was a huge age gap and as a result I idolized him as a child. I still get shit for it from my friends and I'm an adult now. Edit, yes. I am Eddie from Ed and Eddie. My uncle always told me how to swear and that all priests were assholes. So during one procession in a totally quiet Greek church I started pointing at the priest and yelling, "Asshole. You are an asshole." In middle school, I didn't shower and I wore the same fleece jacket every day. I didn't stop until my mom told me how bad I smelled. I used to dig through the hamper and pull out my sister's bra and stuff it with toilet paper and dance around the bathroom. Actually, I'm pretty sure I must have known what I was doing was embarrassing or I wouldn't have hid in the bathroom. Nonetheless, I was a weird kid. My grandfather was pretty racist and used horrible language. I grew up in a tiny rural town with very few black people. At Kmart, I remember saying to my mom, "Look mom, an egg." She was mortified and my parents are totally not racist at all. God, I still have nightmares about this. I used to play Pokemon at recess with a friend of mine. We would enact the Pokemon and make the sounds and everything, really loudly. We thought we were so cool. When I was very young I used to love to go out to the country and just watch cows. My grandmother would usually take me. I don't remember this at all, but one night my parents had friends over and were out sitting on the side porch. I was always a bit of a show off when I was a kid. I walked out in the front yard, pulled my pants down and yelled, "Hey everyone, look. I'm a cow. Moo." I then proceeded to drop a sheet in the yard. I used to pull my pants down in public when I needed to go to the toilet. If either my brother or I had to fart, we would put our butts together thinking it would exchange the fart. Not till sometime later we realized we were just farting on each other. Mother never explained how periods worked, so when it happened, I was too embarrassed to tell her. I took it upon myself to line the inside of my granny panties with panty liners. Like I was sporting a panty liner diaper. I was 15. Wore a fanny pack, Oakleys, and fluorescent green shorts often. Grew up in the late 80s early 90s : when I was little I used to pinch my right nipple all the time. Even in public. I would just slip my hand underneath my shirt and go at it. WTF was I thinking? At the time, Mom and I lived in a part of Georgia with very few black people. And we're Scotch-Irish, so no one in my family had dark skin. We were checking out at the grocery store and this really dark black guy was in front of us. Mom was busy with getting coupons and money out, so I politely went up to him and asked him why he was so brown. He thought it was funny and tried to explain. My mother was mortified. Run away from home. While naked. Full stop. Oh god. When I was 8 I was laying on my bed sucking in my stomach and pushing everything toward the middle to make it look like I had a weird six-pack. Suddenly a loud sucking in sensation and noise occurred. Then with a push, out came a loud farting noise. My new step siblings all had cool, weird bodily things they could do, so I was really excited to show them that I could fart on command. They wouldn't know that it wasn't coming from my butt, I thought. And they didn't. They gleefully watched and cheered me on as I did my double fart over and over on the living room floor. My dad and stepmom walked into the room and asked what we were all laughing about, so of course I had to show them. I don't remember the specifics of their actions except that after like the 5th double fart they asked me to stop. I thought I had unlocked some sort of secret farting ability, but yeah. The adults knew what was up. So yeah. I queefed in front of my dad. Multiple times. I used to repeat myself 3 or 4 times without realizing it. Same thing just 3 or 4 times. I must be one hell of an annoying kid. Well, we had just moved to a new town and my mom was hosting some ladies from the church my dad would now be pastoring. My mother was nervous and was trying her best to make a good impression on the ladies there. Then I come into the room, probably loving the idea of the spotlight, and jump on my mom's lap and start bouncing my mom's bobs around saying, "I love playing with these things." I found out about this story when I later visited and stayed at someone's house. Since we had moved a while back, that was there. She couldn't stop laughing when she saw me. now in high school. Because she would think of what I did when I was 6. My mother regularly tells the story of how when I younger, we were out shopping, and I saw a man wearing an eye patch. Upon seeing this, I exclaimed, "Aha! A pirate." She claims she's never left a shop so quickly. I used to pretend that I was a puppy. I would go around to my parents' friends and beg them for treats, then proceed to bury them in my kitchen floor. I had a whole routine. Also, I was way too old to be pulling this sheet. I hated pooping. So to stop the urge, I used to hold my bum. Did it in front of everyone. When I was about 11, I went to the beach in Chicago. And for some reason we had an old-fashioned metal aquarium thermometer in the car. I took it with and was measuring the temperature of the sand and water. Lots of fun. Right? Only I was 11 and felt like a big kid. So I was showing off to everyone on the beach and pretending I was an official city researcher collecting marine data. Here I am thinking I'm the coolest thing since ice was invented. When in reality I'm a pale skinny 11-year-old sticking a thermometer in the sand and looking deep in thought. To a family friend that was a woman that had some peach fuzz, "Why do you have a mustache? Women are not supposed to have that." Finally, in AskReddit I can relate with a good story. I was at 7th grade when we're having a biology lesson. It was about human reproduction. I've heard about sex before, but I never realized it was that important to life and whatnot. I forgot exactly what my friend asked to the teacher, but he was kinda at a loss for words on what he's trying to say. Trying to ask in his behalf. My stupid mouth suddenly started to blurt out the only thing that's running through my mind. What I thought he was gonna ask. I asked the teacher in a loud, proud voice. I think what he was trying to say is that, could 2 penises go inside in one vag? The teacher was baffled and the class was at a full silence. I really thought it was an honest, real question, and I thought the teacher didn't really understand my question. So I went ahead and further elaborate my question. To this day, that conversation still haunts me. I once told a teacher that my family likes to sit around all night drinking beer and playing poker. I also told that same teacher that my dad has a metal boomerang and throws it to chop people's heads off. Pretty sure this is a Mad Max thing. And I also told that teacher that my little cousin had died by being run over with a car. But the next day I came in and told her he was alright now. My parents are still feeling the shame and embarrassment. Lol. Edit. Another one I will add, which I hesitated to put in the first time simply due to this being my main account. But when my sibling was born I told, yet again, the same teacher, that if it was a boy his name would be, name has been modified. But you'll be the gist, Bob. And if it was a girl, her name would be Barbarina. Apparently the teacher commented to my parents on what a unique name choice that was. Hahaha. When I was 8 I would always chew on my long hair and my teacher used to tell me how disgusting it was and that I'd end up with fur balls inside me. Also I used to run around with my arms back behind me because I decided it made me more streamlined and able to run faster. Oh. And I always used to run with my fingers along walls and stuff whilst I was walking. One day while doing this in the playground, my finger slipped into a hole in a wooden fence and got completely stuck. Just then the bell rang and everyone else lined up to go back inside while I just stood there with my finger stuck in a fence like a moron. A couple of teachers and a lady from the kitchens had to spend ages covering my hand in washing up liquid to free me. I was that kid who thought it was cool to growl and roar like a dinosaur. Especially when there were girls around, I would let out my best dino roar to assert my dominance and release my inner beast. I picked my nose until I was in the 2nd grade and my teacher made fun of me for doing it. I used a Kleenex. I just couldn't stand those boogers up there. She used to make fun of the wrinkles in my clothes too. When I was like 2, I decided to go on an adventure stark naked and walk to my grandma's house who lived across town. I was about 2 blocks down when the postman grabbed me and brought me home. My mom was doing dishes and didn't realize I was gone. When I was young, Like 6 or 7 years old, I didn't really understand how religion works. I just thought God was this guy who lived in the sky and saw and knew everything. I also knew the word sin and knew it meant to do something bad. Well, every time I did something that I thought might be a sin, I started getting all worried that it would make God mad and he would send me to hell. So every night in bed I would start praying to God, asking him to forgive me for every single sin that I committed. After asking for forgiveness, I would proceed to beat the shit out of myself. Depending on how bad the sin was, I would punch myself in the face a certain number of times. Snuck a cookie out of the jar earlier. 3 punches. Got in a fight with my sister. 5 punches. I didn't hold back either. I thought I was keeping myself out of hell, so I was serious about it. I brought myself to tears sometimes. At one point I thought I had figured out how to make my tongue look like bottom lip. I don't know why I thought this was an important thing for me to learn. But it was. And so I did it. And for almost a month I would sit there in class with my tongue sticking out, pretending it was my bottom lip. I thought it was so cool. I looked like I was retarded. I used to tell people that I was related to famous people. When I was a kid, I used to tell everyone that Baby Spice from the Spice Girls was my sister. Then I started telling people Will Smith was my brother. I'm a blonde white girl. I don't know what I was thinking. One time, I must have been 11. I said, Jimi Hendrix would be remembered as a better guitarist if he sang too. There are so many things wrong with that statement, I don't know where to begin. I didn't pay too much attention in my 7th grade 6 ed class. So I thought sperm was another word for anything that came out of the pen 15. Or in my youthful mind, only urine. That week, I told my dad in public that I'm full of sperm. Can I go to the bathroom? I lived in a condominium for the most part of my childhood. I lived on a 2nd floor. So when I was around 6, I thought it would be pretty funny to pee through the window to the outside world. This was my modus operandi. I stood on the windowsill, put my pants down. For some reason I preferred to pee this way, and proceeded to urinate. I like to target people, but I never managed to actually hit them with my stream. I think the condo got sued by someone. I don't really know. That's just some nasty rumor that got to me. Oh. And the only ones that knew about this habit were my brothers. I'm 20 now, so I'd be pretty safe telling my parents that I was the little germ that caused all the backlash back then. During recess, I would pull my coat over my legs so it looked as if I just had feet at the end of my torso. I would hop around and act like a deranged Furby. I was not alone in this. My neighbor actually got stuck in his coat while waiting for the bus one morning, and the bus driver had to get off and help him. I made a ridiculous amount of eye contact. I had learned that it was polite to look people in the eye when they talk to you, and that more equals better. So I stared into people's eyes like I was possessed. Combine that with a very quiet disposition and you get one creepy child. Hit my pants all the time in pre-K. Then the teachers would wash my ass in the sink and I'd give all my friends the thumbs up. My sister loves to tell this story. When I was 4-5, I was nuts about dogs. Mainly German Shepherds because we had 2. My sister brings home a good guy friend of hers from school and they babysit me. I was very observant of our 2 dogs and noticed they sniffed people and sometimes their crotches upon greeting them at the door. Often TGE greeted person would get their hands licked too. Me, never having met my sister's friend before, ran straight up to him and said woof woof, I'm a dog, and promptly smushed my face into his crotch and took big sniffs. Then stuck my tongue out and went to start licking him. My sister, crying with laughter, stopped me before I could. Thankfully. Apparently the poor guy was so shocked he didn't know what to do and froze. My sister will probably tell that one at my wedding for sure. I used to walk around our house in my briefs, sometimes with a raging hard on. I stopped doing this after I learned about erections. Ask my mom very loudly about things I didn't understand. Why is that woman so fat? Exclamation point. What's wrong with that guy's face? While pointing. Oh my god. Why does that lady have so many kids? I once saw a woman who had really long fake nails and asked her how she grew them so long. Then asked, how do you do a job? She told me she didn't have one. So I said, oh. Well yeah. That makes sense. I was an embarrassing 5-year-old to be around. Edit. Thank you all for sharing your stories of things you blurted out as a child. They've been really hilarious to read. Keep them coming. This is so ducking embarrassing. But whatever. When I was a little girl, I never felt like my privates were dry after I went pee. So I would have a special walk that involved taking really wide steps to the side to air myself out. This continued until I was about 10. You know, when you are young and you have time on your hands, you find interesting and creative ways to eat things. I ate a lot of fruit and I like to eat bananas by scraping the whole banana past my teeth, layer by layer, because it would get all mushy. This involved inserting the whole banana into my mouth to start the teeth scraping from the base. Accommodating some of it into my throat wasn't the thrill but more a means to an end so I could eat the whole banana my special way. My mum chose to ignore it and hope I would stop. My dad was much less comfortable and started shouting at me. And I was quite stubborn, so I would further insist on eating it with more enthusiasm. I wasn't allowed to eat bananas in front of people. Then we didn't buy bananas at all anymore. No one ever explained why, and I honestly thought they just thought I was gross. In my 20s I randomly thought of this when I ate a banana and just sat there like, oh. TLDR, I used to deep throat bananas when I ate them. I used to walk down the street listening to the Beastie Boys on my Discman, rapping along to the song at full volume. I thought I was one badass mother-father. I got pissed off at my parents for leaving me home alone while they saw Romancing the Stone. To enact my vengeance, I blew up all the balloons my dad hid in the bottom of his underwear drawer. That'll show em. Apparently it did. They took me along when the Jewel of the Nile came out,